It's like that meme of the geometric equation. I think it's Julia Roberts, and there's all these formulas. That is my life sometimes, as it feels right now, just making sure everything is working. Welcome back. Artist Journal, November 21st, 2025. Broadcasting from Taormina, Sicily. Looking off into Messina. Beautiful, beautiful. I wish you could see it. It's kind of blotched out, unfortunately. That's the mirror behind me that looks at the gorgeous balcony here. What wonderful weather. I hesitate to say, because, of course, all the reports I'm getting from Berlin is freezing cold, Paris, freezing cold, Toronto, snow, Saskatoon, actually the same temperature as Berlin, but you have not come here for the weather, so welcome back. Here it is. Okay, so anything to update? I think we're in business. We're going to get into all of it, the crypto markets and how it's affecting everything. I just have to say, though, I love bear markets. From an art perspective, it's, for whatever reason, I'm not even sure. Maybe it's less crowded. I have it all to myself, I sometimes feel. That's how it felt in 2022, 2023. And I love that. It was a clean slate. Nobody cared so, to overgeneralize. But it was a wonderful time. So in a sense, should we go down, okay, not great on the pocketbook. But from an art perspective, you almost wonder if it's like war. Like bad times bring about good art. Interesting question. Not sure. And of course, nobody wants war. So let's begin. Stippen Pixel, bringing us back to 2022. Stippen Pixel finally returns with the Street Movement? Let's see what it's called. Street Moment series, number 58. After a long hiatus on this series, one of my favorite series, comes back finally with these gorgeous, non-finito-like works of pixel art and just, the world of the present, so to speak. I think Stippen Pixel is out of Buenos Aires or Argentina. Kind of looks that way, if I had to venture a guess, just based on maybe the vehicle. Actually, you could see a vehicle like that in Sicily. My ex, who I'm still very good friends with, who was from Bolivia, she always compared, when we'd go to Greece, she would always say, this is just like Bolivia or South America. There are weirdly, visually, a fair amount of similarities between South America and the Mediterranean. Particularly, cities like Athens and even parts of Sicily. So all to say, doesn't look totally unfamiliar here. Beautiful combination. There's not too much to say here, but a pixel art painting, we might be tempted to call it. And let's see, can we go? We can't go can we go anymore? Okay, this is on Taya, but we can probably go a little bit more zoomed in over here, as you can see. So this kind of helps bring us to what we're doing. So pretty cool here. And we have, I don't know, are these dancers and just kind of nice, simple, happy faces. In a sense, just kind of straightforward art of the world we live in, done with a medium. I was going to say underused. I don't know if pixel art is underused. But weirdly, I guess I think about it always from this contemporary art context, which to a certain degree it is. I mean, weirdly, I would say you see the Ai Weiweis, and there you see Damien Hirst collaborating with Invader, right? So weirdly, it's starting to seep in. Sometimes I'm kind of thinking Ai Weiwei, who is on Twitter, I have a sneaking suspicion is more aware of this little scene here. But maybe that's just imagination on my part. Anyways, let's continue here. So rad work. I believe Absurdeity was the lucky purchaser. Let's just look at the history. This is on Taya. 35 Tezos, so 1750. I love how Stippen Pixel is doing a one of one. Here's another one. This one is still available. Collect for 35 Tez. And again, these half-colored works, like I like to say, it's kind of like instant poetry. There's a couple of ways to make instant poetry. One is the non-finito. Again, traced back to Michelangelo's half-finished sculptures, which were thought to be purposeful. The other way of doing instant poetry is, of course, putting one layer that's random color, and then you put some outlines on top that you haven't planned at all, and you just put it on top, and boom, you have instant poetry. So those are the two ways, should you be wondering, how to make instant poetry. And you think of Zigmar Polka in that regard. So Plaza, and loving the hair here too. I don't know if you can see that, but it's basically, can we go any further? It's basically, 4 to the floor pixel art, texture. Checkerboard texture, so to speak, and there it's just like a simple, everyday, again, you think of Baudelaire, painter of the modern world, you think of Manet, Edouard Manet. Okay, so Stip and Pixel getting us started with the wonderful Street Moments series, and there's Agnes. Got more works by Agnes, actually, coming up this episode. Let me just see where my mouse cursor is. All right. So what did we call that? Seeking Art Auditors. It's controversial talking about Charlotte Fang, I'm learning. Not everybody likes the fact that I was discussing. I guess there's a checkered history of a certain kind. Yeah, so I go in exploratory, and in a sense, like for those that might be concerned, I go in exploratory and with, as kind of a news person to a certain degree, the truth is always better than kind of keeping things in the dark and shuffled away and, to use Freudian terminology, repressed. So, from a journalistic perspective, from just a intellectual perspective vantage point, I always think it's better to shine light on things rather than to keep them in the dark, and that the truth ultimately of the situation will work itself out, so to speak, in regard to, fairly controversial figure. I'm finding out and learning all the time. All to say, it's been a fascinating discussion. Let's look at the comments on last show. Oh, Microbe, this is amazing. I'm so glad I found the Tezos art community. Well, it's not just Tezos, but it is, you'll see, it's like 80% here. And it's interesting. It's not on purpose. It's not out of any sort of natural bias. It's an art bias. It's a curatorial bias, but not based on loving one blockchain over another. Much as I might appreciate the people over at Tezos and Object and Tea, Zero Bound, and all those, and everybody there. But it's really based on the art, and it just happens that the non-gate-kept platforms with the cheap minting fees and the heavy collector community happens to be on Tezos, a lot of it. So, so it's that free market, as I always say, the beating heart of this scene is the fact that people can make money and mint for cheap and you don't need to spend $10. I mean, the irony of this is today on Ethereum, you probably spend $1 to mint your art anyway because nobody's using Ethereum, to overgeneralize. Even Bitcoin, it's probably at 1 V-byte, the lowest. So you can mint for very cheap on other platforms or blockchains, but it's sort of like that first, I guess you could call it a first mover advantage in terms of price, cheap minting. Because when Tezos got popular, or Object and Hen, all those things, it was incredibly expensive. I remember spending $250 to put a work on the blockchain at the height of the 2021 bull market. But when you're selling for thousands, you're kind of laughing. Well, I don't know if you're laughing about spending $250, but you're saying it's worth the risk. So I'm glad you found us. And these are actually my favorite comments, are people who might just be on YouTube and all of a sudden find this kind of wild show, this show that shouldn't exist in large respect. So love to hear from you, Oh Microbe. Keep commenting and tell us what you think. Jake Studios, thank you, Poco. Hope you've seen the artists. So, of course, Jake Studio doing the Fringe. that Asian Fringe show there, that wonderful poster of sorts. Tom Bombattle, haha, thank you, Adrian. Of course, referring to the Nightcore pixel art image, Worlds Collide. Maybe I should do a Nightcore show. That would be hilarious. I better not say it. There's probably going to be 10 Nightcore shows now. Anyways, thank you everybody for supporting here. Wonderful, 16,500 views, 51 retweets. Wonderful. And I think Object was happy, or I should say Art on Tezos, who sponsored the show there of doom scrolling. Everybody seemed happy, so that made me happy. Seeking Art Auditors, and let's just look at the comments quickly. If you want to sponsor, just send me an email. The contact information should be below or in my on my website in the description on YouTube. BJP Art, Pocobelli's Friday Night Art Show. Love the sound of that. That is styling from a broadcast perspective. I'm all over that. That's almost a name of a show. Pocobelli's Friday Night Art Show. If I ever have to change the name, I do have a name now. Minty Fresh Vibes, awesome to hear from you. No Minty Fresh from Rug Radio. Back when I was on there, working with those guys. Good to catch an episode. Awesome to hear from you, Minty. A true, someone in for the long term, go give Minty Fresh Vibes a follow. Canik Zapata, thanks, my friend. Great to hear from you. I don't think we have a work. I couldn't fit everything in. My computer, again, is on the verge. Feel bad for the people I have one people on Tezos work out of the 20 I could have shown, and just apologies in advance for that. There's only so much I can do here. Agnes Evergrace, let's go. Of course, Agnes being the brilliant artist of this weird.gif, and of course some great works on VVV. Actually, I think we have some more this episode. Let's go. Appreciate the views and insight on my crazy, meaningless collages. Also, the Cardboard Trash VVV project is mine too. That is hilarious, because I had no idea. I had some papers and boxes that came in the mail and needed to be thrown out, so I decided to make a series of 13 pictures. Why not? I thought it was hilarious, and actually, I would kind of, if I had to put together a trash show, I think Agnes would be at the top. I shouldn't say any of this, but Agnes would be at the top of the trash, and I say that lovingly, of course, trash art series. Anyways, wonderful to hear from you, Agnes. Wonderful work, and more of this episode. Another awesome VVV series. Ed Woods, thanks for the shout out, Poco. Hope you're all good. I am enjoying. I wish you could see the view. I really wish you could see this view. Basically, looking over a cliff into the sea, the beautiful Sicilian, and the weather. I mentioned the weather, didn't I? Absurdity. Hello, Adrian. I practically yelped when I saw Deadly Delight. So, of course, Absurdity picked up that work, and who also has a series on VVV, by the way. Check out Absurdity's feed. Agnes collab. So that's a collab with Agnes, I guess. This when I saw Deadly Delight on the YouTube thumbnail. Oh, so this one here, America. It was a blast working with her on this. So I didn't realize, actually, so thanks for mentioning that. I didn't realize Absurdity was a collab on that. And our other collabs is she is so very talented and creative and irreverent. Yeah, this America piece, I wish I owned it. Even my 18-year-old daughter loves her work, and I can't think of too many artists who can appeal to both a 50-plus-year-old male and a teenage girl. Thank you for featuring her art. Well-deserved, in my humble opinion. Indeed, I haven't shown a ton of Agnes's work. And maybe in the long term that worked out for me, because now I have some fresh content here. But it's always like, for any artist that, because sometimes I feel bad for artists. Let's say they've been on Tezos. I've done 460 shows, and maybe they've never been on the show. Sometimes I literally haven't seen the work, or his computer, etc. So just so you know, so we continue here, and we continue to try and show new artists. Webgirl, an exciting addition. Thanks to Kika Nicolela as part of our doom scrolling curation there. Great show. Thanks for highlighting doom scrolling. Great to hear from you, Kika. Wonderful show there, and thanks for commenting. Great to hear from you. Saw, of course, Kika in Berlin for Art on Tezos. Human Boy, happy to see Agnes start the show. Indeed. Great to hear from you, HB and Lucas Magone. What a start. Awesome to hear from you. Thank you for the ongoing positivity, Yan. We have a work by you. Wonderful work this show. Congrats on the sale. No Hygiene. Awesome to hear from you. We have some work. And we have a work by No Hygiene or two. Webgirl. Thanks for the shout out on my spam art pigfluencer series on doomscrolling. Been watching your episodes and never thought I'd be in one. Made my day. Well, you're here again. And that's kind of the fun thing is, I'm such a creature of habit that once someone is in the show, they often keep showing up for a while, and then, so it continues. BTC, awesome collab, love the art, thank you. And rad work here. Webgirl, spam, Gauge Corp, heck yeah, thanks for the spam art shout out, Pocobelli. Consider yourself spammed. It's not the first time. Now, too bad that didn't show up in the spam. Art auditors, I volunteer as tribute doomscrolling session coming. So thank you everybody for the comments. Rad to hear from you. Look at this. Someone put out a tweet. I should have brought up the tweet. I can't put up endless tabs. But someone on Twitter, or X, was showing themselves playing this on a train. And this is just like the raddest. I'm not here I should be advertising this. In a sense, this is an advertisement, but I'm not being paid. I'm just excited that this exists. Atari 50 Pocket Player Pro, 35 euros. 100 classic games at your fingertip. Of course, sold out. They could have charged 150 euros for that. So interesting. We're sorry this product is not available for purchase. You know what this reminds me of? And it's almost a bit of a trend, I dare say. I mean, from a consumer electronics point of view. Who does this remind you of? Music tech people. Doesn't this remind you of Roland and their rebirth as a brand? You could, Roland in the last 5 years has completely returned, maybe 10 years. I believe they were taken out by, it was part of a larger corporation, and it basically got spun off. People bought it off because it wasn't really being given the love it deserved. Roland, who had made so many great synths. Atari, the fact that they're doing stuff like this is really reminiscent of just kind of bringing back these beloved brands. And I would love to get this thing, 35 euros. 0009, okay, so of course, I'm hopefully a bear market in crypto. Perhaps I'm the contrarian on that one. 0009, this space feels rough right now. Liquidity is thin, and it feels like only a handful of diehard collectors are still here every day. Sometimes even in the bull, it feels that way. I mean, how many people are actually collecting? It's interesting. The majority of my art career has been a bear market, so I know what this feels like. I love this comment. I think this is actually true for most art careers, is that most of the time it's a bear market, and once in a while you hit boom times. So I love that comment. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm only trying to keep it real. I was here there are too many artists, there's too much art, this is to be expected, right? And then especially when liquidity comes down, you can't, in a sense, you can't expect to sell your work. I'm not trying to be negative, I'm only trying to keep it real. I was here when NFTs started popping off in 2017, and I've seen it all. The bull and the bear and everything in between. People have been talking about an NFT bull run for about a year now. Topping signal, if there ever was one, perhaps. That's what I was thinking this morning. I was like, maybe the NFT kind of hype cycle of the last year or so, I mean, there's been a little bit of a return. Maybe that was a big topping. It's the most speculative asset starts going up. Maybe that was a warning sign. But it might stay like this for a while. Could even get worse. And weirdly, of course, nobody wants to see poverty. And money, I love money. But I welcome a big bear market. To me, that's exciting. If you're an artist here, just be ready for that. Protect your head, protect your income, keep making the work that is shaping the culture here. Yeah, in a sense, I would say, and I hesitate to use a word, but just the spirit of it, though, real artists will not be put off by the financial situation. They will continue making their work. The market will do whatever it does. You don't have to fall apart with it. Indeed. You always got to be careful with the term real artists. Okay, anyways, let's continue. Sanzo, agreed. The art market here is largely contingent on folks that sell art for liquidity to buy more art and crypto gains. So responding to this post, when folks are feeling fearful because of the status of the crypto market, they don't spend on art. Meanwhile, those involved just in art have diminishing liquidity. So exactly, and there's not much to spend your money on. I keep coming back to this in crypto. I'd still argue that apart from money transfer, that the main use case for crypto in practical real world terms that people actually use it for is digital art. I'm still not seeing someone, and to make the point, I'm still not seeing people, sell an NFT deed for a piece of real estate and then call it a house and say, I own a house because I have this NFT. It hasn't happened. I know there's a lot of projects out there and that this is all theoretically going to happen. But the only real world, and I'm sure there are definitely little exceptions, it's art. Interestingly, still, 5 years later, 3 years after starting this show, 3.5 years later. Isn't that interesting? And 009 replying to Sanso, I'm thinking about how much the space shrinks if we hit a real bear market. Again, I welcome it, because outside of crypto itself, the NFT market hasn't recovered since the post-mania peak in 2021. That's interesting. Well, put it this way, my friends who came knocking on my door, of course I follow 009, my friends who were knocking on my door in 2021 never came back this cycle. That is true. This isn't only about liquidity. A lot of artists will disappear, not because they don't want to stay, but because no attention and no sales forces people to find income elsewhere. Being stretched across multiple platforms while holding a day job burns people out fast. Indeed. So you just got to do what you can. My philosophy in the last, I would say, put it this way, in the summer I worked on a project, had nothing to do with any of this. And I put my heart and soul into it for 2 months, and I think it was the best work I'd ever made. And so I have become and I already knew this before, but it's worth mentioning. I'm a big, disciple to the notion of doing one thing. You can do many things, I would argue. This whole notion that you have to do one thing your entire life, I think is totally misplaced and actually doesn't necessarily even serve what you're working on, interestingly. But I would say working on one thing at a time is crucial if you want to do your best work, I would argue. So anyways, interesting conversation as the bear strikes. Love this one too. For contrast, Anna, Art Monochrome 2. Honestly, I don't care if crypto goes up or down. I'll keep collecting. I totally relate to this. I'll keep making art. I'll keep collecting here and there. Collecting's a whole other... I'm careful when I collect because once I start, it's hard to stop. And you start to see the museum in your mind. And before you know it, you're spending all your money, as I have. I've never had BTC, ETH, or anything like that. I buy with my pocket money. That's amazing. If I need a piece on ETH, I go on MetaMask, and through Banksa, I buy it with my bank card. Same for Tezos. I use Kraken. Love art. So shout out to Anna. Good work. This is kind of funny. Or I don't know if it's funny. What is post-AI art? So now Art Review is calling it post-AI art. So as longtime viewers of the show know, post-internet never made sense, to review semantically. Again, as we saw with Parker Ito's interview, the way, and this is what I had suspected, and which I actually mentioned in a speech in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, the summer before. What I had suspected, because I was like, we're still in the era of the internet. At least, you could argue until at least AI showed up. Why are people calling it post-internet art in 2007 or whenever it was, or 2010? And it's because they had a different definition, which not like postmodern, where postmodern meaning after modernism, when they say post-internet, the post-internet people who designed the term, they mean after the internet began, not after the internet, which of course doesn't really exist. So it's this semantic, and I've always thought, like intellectually, like if you can't get the title right, now I'm supposed to believe everything else that's being said here. That it just kind of raises little flags, and it's like, am I just being marketed to? Is this a marketing term? Right? Which I think a lot of people might think, And so here we are again. What is post? Now it's post-AI. And again, this post thing is always put on as a way of trying to intellectualize something that doesn't need intellectualized. We can just call it internet art, and we can call it AI art. It's what it is. Post-AI art, I would argue, doesn't exist. So again, but it's just, okay, no, we need a marketing term. And then, and then we have a whole bunch of discussion here, which, Hito Style enters the picture. Simon Denny, of course, John Raffman, I remember these names from the Berlin Biennale back in 2015, 2016. That was actually a pretty awesome Biennale as far as Biennales go. And so here's some of the works. But my point is, so art review goes back to kind of known quantities in the contemporary art scene to find out what's going on with AI. But I'm going, what about Scamra? Is what I think to myself. Of course, they don't know who Scamra is, but when I'm looking at the works, and we're going to see a bunch of works by Scamra, I'm kind of, put it this way. I was reading interviews with J.G. Ballard, as one does, and I thought there was this hilarious, classic, psychological insight where he's describing how, going to art shows these days. It was in the early 2000s. The interview. It's more, the aesthetic element has almost completely disappeared. It feels more like you're going into a psychological test. And I thought that really rang true, another hilarious thing. And so as far as when people 50 years from now, 100 years from now are trying to put it all together and say, what does the AI art thing mean? Why should we care? What should we care about? All this sort of thing. I think you have to start with the aesthetics is what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to go, well, who's making the art with the aesthetics that we like? And then let's see what they have to say. I think that's what's going to happen. So maybe Orkin, with that incredible work where you click. Are we going to go back to, contemporary art scene because these are known names? And this is what the art scene is kind of, I would say, more than any other news beat, guilty of. Which is never moving on to new characters. There's a real cowardice in the art media, I would argue, and it's been happening my entire life. So if I seem a little jazzed by it here, this is why. So anyways, nothing wrong with people having opinions, and people can call themselves whatever they want. But I just think post-AI, it's AI art. What is this post-AI stuff? Why are you overcomplicating? This is a marketing term, just as post-internet was a marketing term. Let's continue. Before my internet dies here, Henry Cartajo just learned, this is hilarious. I love this piece, and I remember this piece. Just learned that last night my short film, Roberto Baggio, what a great subject matter, was awarded with the Critics' Prize in the Lumen Film Festival in Rio de Janeiro. The film is minted on Object One and lives in Mr. Tez's collection. That is hilarious. Like, who wouldn't go to, for those that, who missed the most hyped up Italian soccer star ever. And unfortunately, but kind of lovingly, and, one of the biggest letdowns in the World Cup, I think it was Italia 90, if I'm not mistaken, where he missed and hit the crossbar. It was sad, but it was just so memorable. And I just love to see a movie about that. 0009 Scale Matters. So here we go. This looks like RGB Montreal or something. So here's the work and put across on large scale in a projector. Indeed it does. I've mentioned that many times here. Before and after Xerox. This is disaster cut, I think. So just some examples of how the medium transforms things. And you have completely different works. You Xerox it. You make a copy, alchemical, I like to say it. Here's another example. This is S404. I don't know if there's a black and white thing going on, maybe on X. So interesting work here. Doesn't it look like pixelation that's kind of been put through the ringer a few times? Effects on effects. Very interesting. Element Lee, Factory Square, digital and physical twins. Very, very, very interesting work as ever. From the very fascinating Element Lee. So look at that and look at that. Always interesting. There's some micro drawings as well. Let's look at this. So Element Lee, staying on the bleeding edge between mediums. Time portrayed. I assume this is real. Of course I follow time. That is a glitch on X. So Hector Herrera, I assume this is all real. And this is not AI. Pretty beautiful portrait. AI or not, it almost doesn't matter, does it? But if it was done for real, it's all the more impressive. Let's put it that way. Gorgeous portrait of Santiago. Here's also Santiago, aka Time, working in the studio. Looks quite similar, doesn't it? Quite nice. Abstract there from Santiago. Let's keep moving, make sure everything's... And look at this. So doing all sorts of work here. Also Santiago, aka Time, doing big prints. So looking very interesting and cool. Nice big Epson printer there. Looks like a very high quality print. Here's Axstone with a cool black and white here too. Looking really sharp. So nice black and white works. And here's a gorgeous work here. Of course, Minoan civilization, Crete. You must go. If you go to Mick Jagger's feed, actually on Instagram, you'll see him in front of at Knossos, the big palace there. Fascinating. You know, it's not quite on par with the pyramids, but it's kind of in this. It's kind of the next level. Like, it's pretty good. It's still, I'd argue, an underrated site in terms of its significance and just the mystery surrounding it. It's not as visually awesome, but it's still pretty visually awesome. All to say, here's a gorgeous work by Burka Bayram, Minoan Genius, which refers to this character here, kind of like, not sure why they call him Genius, but all to say maybe, crocodile head, this sort of thing, combination. There's a word for that is escaping me right now. Love the dots. I love the dots that Burka has put in here. Very nice addition. It really, for some reason, I feel like it adds a lot. I think it's the contrast, actually. What are we doing here? 3 Tezos and still available, edition of 10. Gorgeous. Here's another one, Fish in a Bathtub. Enchanted by Manoah's bathtub. So inspired by Minoan civilization here. Gorgeous artwork that they do there. A wonderful visit in Crete, which is in Greece. That big island in the south of the Mediterranean, on the way to Egypt. If you go in the south of Crete, you can actually look off and see just tiny, on a clear day, you might see the North African coast, or at least hallucinate that you're seeing it. Also, edition of 10, Fish in a Bathtub, awesome series from Burka Bayram. Let's see what Kurt Hustle Collective has for us today. Let's see what's on TV. Surf 3.
Did you ever hear back from that Susie chick?
Nah, she ended up running off with my dad. My mom received the divorce papers this morning.
Well, maybe I can be your daddy now.
The only way to meet your space brothers and sisters is to join the ETC Temple
Oh,
Alliance.
we're back. The ETC Temple Alliance. Pledge your life. So, wonderful work here on, I think that's a printer we hear. Let me make sure. There we go. It's good I close these tabs, actually. It may save our show here. Let's continue. So anyways, Kurt Hustle Collective, that is on Object. Go check it out. Here's Lorna Mills, Madame Butterfly. Her sales have really done well in the last 6 months to a year. So Madame Butterfly, interesting title. Of course, taken from racehorse names and kind of classic Lorna Mills. Nice color here. A GIF with some masking, edition of 7, now 555 on secondary. Here's another one. Endless Parade of Good Lay. Of course, saw Lorna. And for some reason, my mouse is changing here or not working. I think the battery died. Anyways, let's continue. So another work by Lorna Mills, Endless Parade of Good Lay, edition of 20. So again, like here is AI artist, Skamra. Look at this spectacular, what looks like the side of a building here. We're going to see a few spectacular works by Skamra here. Here's another one, GM. So again, using stable diffusion, textual inversion, so just fabulous works here. So the big question here is, remember the Ballard quote about how it's like going into a psychological test rather than where the aesthetic elements, this is particularly true, I'd argue, 15 years ago. I think the market has changed. I think it's moved back towards aesthetics. But there was a time where it seemed like, and it still exists quite commonly, but aesthetics are coming back. And I'd argue, when you go back to the AI discussion, 100 years from now, where, when people are looking at all the stuff, where are you going to start? As like, let's say you're starting from scratch. and just first principles. You're going to start with the art that resonates or that is the most impressive to you that's being made with AI, and then you're going to find out what those people had to say or who influenced those people. You're going to start to be like that, just like Baudelaire influenced the Impressionists. So you like Manet's work, you go, oh, Baudelaire. Oh, Manet. What did Manet have to say? Who did Manet collaborate with? So I think that's what's going to happen. Maybe in the short term, all sorts of things can happen, but in the long term, I think that's how this plays out. Just a theory. This is pretty interesting too. Good afternoon. So kind of like our building shot earlier, but with a weird figure here kind of put on the right. This is Double Mario. So interesting video game. This is an additional one. How much did this sell for? 175 Tezos in the bear. Good work, Scamra. So, and that's what we're seeing. I mean, Zozo had a whole bunch of offers put in. Maybe they were low, I'm not sure. But, quality, you can still sell in bear markets. I have to say, if you make great work, you can still sell it. There is a market for it. So all to say, so cool work here, more by Scamra. So tons of fascinating artwork. Ex-Mortal, Everflow. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Where it's almost like we're zooming in now on the water. It's turning into an abstraction. Very cool work here that is sold out at 30 Tezos, edition of 13. Ex-Mortal continuing to do quite well and selling out here in the bear. Here, as we continue, can't believe it's only been 36 minutes. This is great. Low Echo. So cool work here. Very textured work. And I believe, is this AI? Exactly. So starting with AI, but when you put all of the analog video glitch on top, it starts to look realer and realer, these simulations. I went in depth on a particular show about 5, 6, 7 shows ago with Ex-Mortal's work, if you're curious. Here, this is, I believe, Nebular, continuing these kind of silhouetted figures here and these beautiful distortions. Edition of 8 for 8 Tezos, 2 gone. And that is on Object and also Taya. Kyle Flemmer with kind of an abstract screen-recorded Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 64. An unusual Nintendo glitch, and we're seeing more of these 3D Nintendo 64 type glitches happen here. Castle, so this is an edition of 1, and Ed Woods picking that up for 100 Tezos. Pretty awesome. Here's Web Curl again, doom scrolling. Love the glitch on here. Nice, simple little distortion. Very cool, kind of wavy, almost like it's put through a VCR. And I love the image as well. So more cool work by WebGirl. Also here, also from the doom scrolling show. I never got to this one. Edition of 5. So 5 minted so far only. For 5 Tezos, so very nice low edition there so far. And these cool, looks like it's for scrolling, doesn't it? And Princess Pig, Spam. I guess this is spam art for the Doom Scrolling show. Very cool work there. Only 3 minted, so a nice low edition there. Here's Waffles, Hannibal Waffles. Okay, signed as Drupal though. So last one, 30.338. So amazing sale here. Third of an ETH in a bear. We'll make sure this is new. I'm pretty sure this is new though. Look at that. So it looks like ET back on the scene here. Kind of a more elaborate piece here. Signing the work, some cigarettes in the bottom right and classic eyeballs. Let's see, and Zoltar picking that up for 0.33, duking it out with Daggy D. All you need, is 2 collectors who have to have the work. Of course, K-Thing's also starting things off with offers. So pretty incredible. Great work for Hannibal. Here's another one, sold for 0.3. So again, here we are in a bear market, November 16th. This is 5 days ago. And again, Daggy D and Zoltar are fighting it out for 0.3 ETH. So there, a new work here by Hasdrubal, also known as Hannibal Waffles. That is on Ethereum. That's the thing. Ethereum's cheap right now for minting, especially with cryptos going down. Same with Bitcoin. So exciting times to mint on all blockchains here. Here's Anna Molina. This is pretty cool. Look at how many retweets, actually. 187. Pretty amazing. So here just a couple of what almost look like scanner distortions here. So interesting piece. Do we have any info? No, but pretty cool, isn't it? And this was great. Robinson St. George, the Order of Owls. I think this is AI. Kind of has a bit of a Max Ernst surrealism vibe to it, even in the title. Cool little stamp here. So pretty sure this is AI. A rad work. I was tempted to start with it. Very nice. And again, a new discovery here. Robinson St. George on X. Under the Bridge, this is Walk, and that was picked up for 10 Tezos to John Zabel. And another artist who one imagines will just simply keep going is Walk, unperturbed by the numbers, so to speak. Not sure if that's a reference to Red Hot Chili Peppers. Here's another one by Walk. Now at 3 Tezos, getting up, digital artwork. And of course, selling his work on eBay as well. Not sure what the reference is. Maybe more albums, not sure. Here's Wasteman Goldminovich, picked up by August Ground for 6 Tezos at auction. Toy Brick Planner, Smoker's Refuge. And there, I believe, Wasteman was using a lot of AI, but this looks like a digital painting, doesn't it? So pretty cool there. Any tags? Show all, read more. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is just a straight up painting. We have another one, the Nothing Sweeper TM, still sweeping. Kind of thematically reminds me of that great Dali painting, the pharmacist from somewhere who's looking for absolutely nothing at all. A classic work, the Nothing Sweeper, edition of 1 going to Absurdity for 12 Tezos. So a lot of bargains to be had here with Tezos at 50 cents. Suzo, Wave over Mount Fiji. Let's take a look. Not sure if that's a reference to Hiroshige. Quite the abstract homage here. And this is an edition of 12 and mostly gone at 45 Tezos. So pretty good. How many are left here? 6 left at 45 Tezos. Here's people of Tezos. You know what I'll do? I do it with a lot of hesitation because I do not want to kill the computer this far in the show. We're at 30 Tezos here on this 1 of 1 by Martin Bruce. It's a self-portrait. People of Tezos. Fabulous, fabulous work here. I'm going to take a risk and just scroll through here. There's Nov 1914, Vinciana Jones, Intro Void, Filippo Francocci. So it's a wonderful work here. Kenneck Zapata, Moonzi, Huri, Gora. So a lot of classics here. Still Raquel Godard, Andrea Oliveira, Cibola, Kubile, Odaba, Snajma. So check it out. Amber Vittoria, Ernesto Ash, Pixelare, CDDBB. So, and there's Martin Bruce, Rinny Fish, Ilya Bliznetz. So I could not show all of these, so I show them here. You're in Yacon. Cool portrait there. Valentin Vidal and everybody. Yanis Surtees, Sandy Toes, and everybody. So pretty rad. Marcello Mura. People of Tezos. So I believe those are all auctions. Minute a few internet, 3 nostalgic blender works. So Agnes has a new series on VVV, kind of killing it on VVV, I think. So here it is about this collection. And so for 0.05, and how many have been minted? Do we know? I think this is the series here where it's 3 computers and then you change the background, also what happens on the screen. Quite a smart series, I have to say, using this kind of Hashlips multi-layering software. Pretty cool series here. A cool solution is almost what I'd call it. And then you make, I can't tell how many are here. Here we go. 16 of 333. Looks like 37 of 37 minted. 333 unique, 128 colored Dithered Bliss. So hard to say. Looks like a lot have been sold though. And so cool work from Agnes. And let us continue here. Here's Yuri J. Oppo A5s. Oppo A5s. So I'm not sure. Some more vertical works. I'm not sure if this was a result of the doom scrolling show. This is not a part of it. But there sure are a lot of vertical works that we're seeing. So not sure. Here's some other one. Oat Milk. This went to Absurdity. This is from Yuri J. as well. Classic mosaic. And interesting piece. Kind of looks like domestic scenes, 400 Tezos. So again, here you see 6 of them in this series. Notes on 1800 by 4147 format. So not sure, again, what the source of this format is, but interesting. Here's Warehouse, and here is Armchair. Gotta love that one. Brilliant. And that is still available at 400 Tezos. Here's Ilya Bliznet's Mind on Hold. And another kind of domestic scene with doing laundry, or almost looking like a studio. Interesting outline of a horse there. It has 300 Tezos and AI digital painting and collage. So combination. Here is Time, once again, who are seen in the intro, Center of the Earth Tonight. Very nice piece. I'm not going to open it up so I don't crash my computer. I think this was burned, but I love the look of this piece here. So I assume AI's in the mix on that with digital painting. It's usually just a big combination right now. Die with the most likes commented on the Gustav Klimt portrait that sold for 236 million, but here doing a satire of it, doing a Judge Judy version. So cool work there. Uxine Last Hall, more satire as we see the Grim Reaper figure with almost 2 heads, and shopping, buy now, pay later. Last Hall, edition of 19, and that sold out at 22 Tezos. For Uxine, here's DJ Kiro, Maxwell. So cool video painting here, highly textured. Here's another gorgeous work, edition of 1, 8 Tezos for DJ Kiro. And here is, I think I saw this in, what is the name? The wonderful curator in their feed here. Whose name is escaping me right now, but who we mentioned lots and will mention again, the brilliant art curator, Curio Fringe. This was in Curio Fringe's feed. I want to give credit where I can here. But of course, I've looked at this work, this artist in the past, but it was noticed thanks to Curio Fringe's retweet there. Pretty interesting piece. Has such a great, interesting curation. Big fan of Curio Fringe. Of course, Nuv 1914. This is probably also, of course, I love to show Nuv 1914 here, but I think also Curio, longtime fan of Nuv 1914. So interesting piece. Kind of looks like a homage, but I'm not sure. Interesting combination. Maybe it's taking elements, reusing elements from a homage and putting them with the plants that are probably original. Interesting. Is that what's going on here? Because usually when Nuv does a homage, they are, it says. So I'm starting to wonder, are these taken from paintings and then making new compositions? Pretty interesting. I wonder if that's what's going on here as well. Very interesting conceptual work, as well as just cool, good looking, aesthetically. Look at that rug. Beautifully done. Beautifully, beautifully done. And then there's classic putting the artwork in the artwork. Again, something you'll find in watching lectures on Impressionism right now, and something you'll see in Impressionist painting. Here is Elby. Cool, kind of simple work here. What is this called? The Other Side. Edition of 10 for 5 Tezos and 2 gone so far. And here's Schluppy on X, and kind of a cool, what looks like an AI artwork. Not totally sure on that. And so doing pretty well. Interesting piece. Here's Cap'n, Layers, and so cool GIF here by Cap'n. And a modular. Here's Mumbleboy, a couple of works, Unseen Locale, Seek Out. This is on Rodeo, and I'm not actually going to load that up. And here, 7 minted. So still minting out works on Rodeo. So Rodeo keeps going here. And so a couple of cool works by Mumbleboy. Here is Jan Lucas Magone. I couldn't find it there's no link. Acquired for 111 Tezos. So nice piece here, nice digital painting by Jan, who we saw in the comments there. This is No Hygiene. I assume it's a new one picked up by Hegel Art Collector. A very consistent collector on Tezos. Cool work here. And another one by No Hygiene. I'm not sure if we saw this one. Look at the views on this. I didn't even see that. 263,000. I mean, it is kind of an edgy work here. Wow. So 250,000 views for No Hygiene. How are the followers? Usually when you 8,000 followers, like you can gain a couple of thousand followers when you get that many views in a piece. Here's Sign. Let me actually shut that down just so we don't kill the computer. Sign GN three-dimensional beans. So cool. Taking it three-dimensional, the castle. And here, look at this. This is quite interesting. Of course, doing that, I think a deal with Figma as part of this Ultima 4 like series and kind of a choose your own adventure. So turning it into a whole series here, very cool, the variations here. Very interesting. 159 retweets, 54,000 views, doing fabulous. How are the followers doing on Mech? 44,000, doing quite well with the pixel art there. Kazuhiro Ehira, pretty cool, edgy work here by Kazuhiro. Very interesting work, digital artwork that is turned into a GIF. Here's Neurocolor, who tends to do quite well. 9,000 views here, interesting piece, and not sure where that is minted. This was retweeted by DeckArt, Etienne Jacob, collaboration with JN3008. Very interesting. I guess it's a generative work. Kind of has a bit of a MC Escher feel to it, doesn't it? And also doing spectacular. So, you know, when you're creating and people are seeing your work, there is no bear market. Here's OpenSea Consumptor Nervosa. Okay, and this is Rutger. And I hope I didn't hit. Okay, there we go. Here's Rutger. And as you see, a whole series of works. I don't want to kill the memory on my computer, but releasing in October 2025, a whole series of work here. And we'll just look at one. And why don't they have I'm trying to remember, it's Rutger Van, and anyways, the series is called Consumptor Nervosus. We've been looking at a lot of Rutger's work, and often it's these SVG XML works which go beyond the frame. Quite original. So releasing a series on OpenSea. Here's Edmarola Knight. Very cool. Very, very cool work here. Edmarola. Love the size. Composition study, edition of 1. Selling for 88 Tezos. Love it. You should have taken that deal. Edmarola, 15 Tezos, edition of 11. Fabulous. Fabulous, fabulous. And here, Goat Reading Spells. So all sorts of interesting work from Edmarola here on Object. Edition of 32 for 5 Tezos. So putting out a variety of works here for all kinds of collectors, which is also quite smart. Daniel W. Love this piece here, Face 02, Red Head. There's something about this work that I absolutely love. Daniel W. putting out a whole bunch of interesting work here. Proof of Presence on Object Labs, and that is listed for 200 Tezos. Here is Ariel Presti, Estrato. So another cool pixel art abstract from Ariel Presti. And this is selling for a 1 of 1 for 20 Tezos. Very cool. Here's Rada, a 1 of 1. Those Who Dare. How much did this sell for? Only 23 Tezos for a 1 of 1 by Rada. Wow. Total steal here. And so cool work. And homage to Andrew McCarthy and Black Gryphon's The Fall of Icarus. Love it. Wow. Nicholas Dietrich, rad artwork here. Don't know if we saw this one yet. Interesting, adding gradients into the mix here. And this is called Waiting Room Sensory Deprivation. Collect for 30 Tezos, and that is sold out on Primary. And so how much did that sell for? 16 Tez, pretty reasonable. Here's Gora, Interactive Work in Progress, The Secret Geography of Digital Relationships. Pretty cool title and pretty cool looking work here. This looks interactive, doesn't it? You see the cursor going around. Very interesting work by Gora. And who I think had a people on Tezos work. Autumn Calls, Jordi Gandol, old school hen and object artist. So pretty cool, changing it up a little bit. From the 45-degree angle cities, which you see in the bottom left here. Very nice piece, and love the monochromatic look. Here's Ed Woods, 2026. Here we go again. And so starting to look towards the end of the year. It's not far away, is it? 5-6 weeks, less than 6 weeks. Edition of 10 for 5 Tezos and selling 3. So work continues to sell. Here's a beautiful work. First time. Looks like a bear market, an injured bear. Beautiful work here. Edition of 10 for 12 Tezos, and looking like it's about sold out at 666. Here's Renki Mamata. So cool, another animated abstract, keeping it new. Classic colors in the Judd series. Here's Salawaki, art fair booth, and so what looks like the Salawaki character on one side and a taped trout on the other. Edition of 20. And that, my friends, is your show. Thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And until next time, take care.